The observation deck of the Galactic Council's diplomatic station fell silent when Brianna walked in. Not the respectful silence that usually accompanied ambassadors. This was different. This was the kind of silence that preceded either awe or terror. She had a bruise. A dark purple mark spread across her left cheekbone, and her right arm hung in a regeneration sling that hummed softly with medical nanites. The assembled delegates, representing 47 species from across 3 spiral arms, stared. The Thexian ambassador, a being of crystalline intelligence that had witnessed supernovas, leaned toward his aide. "The human is damaged." "Should we postpone?" the aide whispered back. But before anyone could speak, before the council chairman could even call the session to order, something unexpected happened. The cubs moved first. There were 7 of them, juveniles from various species brought to observe the proceedings as part of their political education. A young Vraxi with fur still soft and unarmored. 2 Pelthian siblings whose bioluminescence hadn't yet stabilized. A Kresh youth barely past its 3rd molting. And 3 others, all supposedly taught the protocols of diplomatic silence. They rushed forward as one, their various locomotion methods creating a strange symphony of movement. Security started to react, but Jordan, Brianna's fellow human and security liaison, held up his hand. He stood near the entrance, his own uniform crisp and undamaged, but his eyes were sharp. He'd learned to read these situations in the 2 years since humanity had joined the Galactic Council. The Vraxi cub reached Brianna first, its 3-fingered paws gripping her good arm with surprising gentleness. "Who?" it demanded in its species' clicking language, immediately translated by the universal implants everyone wore. "Who did this?" The Pelthian siblings flanked her other side. "Give us names," one said, its usually cheerful bioluminescence pulsing angry crimson. "We will tell our parents," the other added. "They will make this right." The Kresh youth, normally a docile species that had never known war, made a sound Jordan had never heard before, something between a hiss and a growl. "Names! We need names!" Brianna looked down at the younglings surrounding her, then up at Jordan. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. Jordan felt his throat tighten. He'd been there when it happened, watched from the shuttle as the mining platform collapsed. He'd pulled her from the wreckage himself. "There are no names to give," Brianna said softly, kneeling despite the obvious pain it caused her. She was now eye level with most of the cubs. "It was an accident. The platform support failed. No one is to blame." "Accident?" The Vraxi cub's translator struggled with the concept as if the word itself was foreign. "Then who built it wrong? Who did not check? Someone must answer." The adult delegates watched, frozen. The council chairman, an ancient Pelthian whose light had faded to a wise amber, made no move to intervene. This was unprecedented, but something in the moment held even his authority at bay. Jordan moved closer, his boots clicking on the polished floor. "Brianna was checking the support herself when it failed," he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "She pushed 3 Kresh miners to safety before the platform dropped. That's why she has only a bruise and a fractured arm. She could have jumped first." The cubs turned to him, then back to Brianna. The weight of that information settled over them like a physical thing. "You saved our people?" the Kresh youth asked, its voice small. Brianna reached out with her good hand and gently touched the young Kresh's head. "That's what you do when someone's in danger. You don't think about it. You just move." "Humans always move toward danger," one of the other cubs said, a small Dorinthian whose people had only recently made contact with humanity. "My teacher said your species is mad." Jordan laughed, surprising himself and everyone else. "Your teacher isn't wrong." "But why?" The Vraxi cub was still gripping Brianna's arm. "Why risk yourself?" "The platform was checked last rotation. The failure was statistically improbable. No one would have blamed you for prioritizing your own safety." Brianna was quiet for a moment. Jordan watched her search for words. This was why humans had struggled in early diplomatic missions. They kept trying to explain things that, to them, needed no explanation. "Because we know what it's like to be the only ones," Brianna finally said. "For most of our history, we thought we were alone in the universe. We only had each other. And we learned, sometimes too late, that every life matters. Every person saved is a universe of possibilities preserved." The Thexian ambassador's crystalline form chimed softly, a sound of contemplation. "The human philosophy of interdependence," he said to his aide. "I've read about it, but to see it demonstrated—" "My parents will want to thank you," the creche youth said. "They would have lost me. I work on that platform during educational rotations. I was supposed to be there that day, but I had council observation duty." Brianna's eyes widened slightly. Jordan saw her realize what the cub was saying. She hadn't just saved 3 adult minors. She'd saved the parents of the youth standing before her. "Then I'm very glad I was there," she said simply. The council chairman finally rose, his ancient form moving with deliberate grace. "The session is postponed," he announced. "Today, we bear witness to something more important than legislation. These cubs have reminded us why we formed this council. Not for trade routes or territory, but for this, the instinct to protect, to preserve, to value life above protocol." The cubs still hadn't moved from Brianna's side. Jordan watched as more younglings from other species began approaching, their curiosity overcoming their training. Adult delegates made no move to stop them. "You're going to be here a while," Jordan said to Brianna, amusement in his voice despite the seriousness of the moment. She smiled through obvious exhaustion. "I can think of worse ways to spend an afternoon." The Vraxi cub finally released her arm, but stayed close. "When you heal," it said seriously, "I want to learn how to move toward danger like humans do. Will you teach me?" Brianna looked at Jordan, who shrugged with a grin. Then she looked back at the cub. "I'll teach you something better," she said. "I'll teach you how to calculate load-bearing tolerances and structural integrity. So maybe next time we can prevent the danger before anyone has to move toward it." The cub's translator hummed with what might have been a laugh. "Humans," it said, "always thinking." "Always moving, always thinking," Brianna agreed. "That's what we do." Jordan watched as the cubs surrounded his friend, asking questions, demanding stories, offering their own small forms of protection to someone who'd protected others. And he understood then what humanity had brought to the Galactic Council, not superior technology or tactical genius, but something simpler and more profound. The bruise would fade, the arm would heal, but the cubs would remember the day a human returned with injuries and they demanded names, and found instead a lesson about why some species run toward falling platforms instead of away from them. It was, Jordan thought, the most human thing possible. Getting hurt, saving others, then using that moment to teach the next generation how to build a safer future. The Galactic Council had seen many wonders. Today, they witnessed humanity.